They got to go on a bye. They've got to live with the stench of this one for 2 weeks. They could have even been larger. He took Mahomes out late in the third quarter and started downing it with 2.5 to go.
Wow, the Raiders somehow had their worst game in nearly half a decade. Geno Smith managed to only throw for 67 yards. I didn't even know that was possible. Raiders fans have hit rock bottom and are demanding change at head coach, at QB. Hell, I think they'd rather have Miguel Vick over here as their quarterback.
Este es el momento, esta es la hora. Es mi último juego, es mi cumpleaños y estoy con mis hermanos.
Let's break down this freaking disaster Raiders versus Chiefs Week 7 matchup. It's crazy that there's even nothing to even really talk about when it comes to this game. It was complete domination. 3 first downs versus 30 first downs, 95 yards versus 434 yards, and I don't even want to look at that time of possession. The Raiders literally gave up before they got off the plane to Kansas City. I'm a masochist, so I managed to finish watching this game. I sat through it on my live stream, and in the third quarter, this stat popped up. Geno Smith having his first completion since the first quarter. The Raiders were pretty much never on the field on offense. It was so bad that the Chiefs were just sort of having fun and letting loose and being cute. On 4th and 1, Mahomes had this viral moment where he faked trying to get them offsides. And of course, they easily got the first down.
Coach, it doesn't.
There they go.
We'll talk about Geno Smith and what the fuck is going on with this Raiders offense in a little bit. But after the first 4 drives of this game, it was already over. Once it was 14-0, you knew there was no way in hell the Raiders were ever going to have a chance in this football game. And it looked like the Raiders players were somewhat checked out, and there was just a lack of energy on the sidelines. And it made a lot of fans wonder, has Pete Carroll already lost the locker room? After the third Kansas City Chiefs offensive drive, Max Crosby was unavailable and ended up missing the rest of the game. He was ruled out. So literally 3 of the Raiders' best players all ruled out in this game when you talk about Bowers, Crosby, and Jacoby Myers. And it was kind of shitty that Max Crosby had Noah Gray take a shot at his knee with a chop block, and that's what ruled him out for the rest of the game. The announcers wondered if this was legal. Obviously, Gene Sarator, their rules analyst, said that it's totally legal, but I don't know. I think that might be a chop block, might be illegal there. Either way, really bad for Max Crosby, but it looks like he should be okay for the remainder of the season. And honestly, probably made sense to rest him for the rest of this game anyways, because very quickly at the end of the first quarter, it was completely over and no point in wasting Mad Max's knee. Yo, do you want to keep your online life secure and unlock amazing benefits? Then check out the sponsor of today's video, my favorite personal go-to VPN, Private Internet Access. Browsing the internet without a VPN is like sending messages in a group chat and everybody can see your offensive jokes. You're getting canceled. A VPN hides your IP, encrypts your connection, and it shields you from hackers, especially on public Wi-Fi. And my absolute favorite feature is that you can watch every NFL game with one subscription. NFL Game Pass International remains one of the only ways to watch every regular and postseason game with no extra cost and no blackouts. Just connect to the DE server for NFL Game Pass International on DAZN and then you're good to go. Private Internet Access also allows you to have unlimited devices encrypted and protected with just one subscription. We're offering a special discount here. By using my link, viewers can grab an 83% discount on Private Internet Access. That's just $2.03 a month, and they also get 4 extra months completely free. Go to piavpn.com/Willie to get 83% off Private Internet Access and 4 months extra free. And I hate to say it, it was quite clear that this knee was bothering Max Crosby. In the beginning of the game, he really made no impact at all and seemed like he didn't have that same burst as usual. And the only highlight that any Raiders fan noticed from Max Crosby was when he was patting Patrick Mahomes on the head after Mahomes made a good run. And of course, Tony Romo, who loves to go all over Patrick Mahomes, made sure to let the audience know that it's just so great to see Max Crosby show good sportsmanship with Patrick Mahomes.
They both want to win so badly, right? But they have respect for each other. It's a great thing.
And as a Raiders fan, I love that, taking great solace in the fact that Crosby's a good sport. You know, I don't need wins or even any points in this game because the Raiders scored 0 points in this game. I didn't even know that was possible, but I don't need any of that. I'm just glad that he's having good sportsmanship with Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes got the ball out of his hands quickly, effortlessly made first downs during this game. There was absolutely nothing the Raiders defense could do, and I don't blame them because they were on the field the majority of the game due to the fact that the Raiders offense only had 3 first downs in the entire game. So I think the defense was a little tired and on the field a little too much, and I don't blame the fact that the Chiefs were able to go up and down the field, so much so that a former Raider ended up taking the field in the third quarter. Yes, Patrick Mahomes was so freaking dominant that Gardner Minshew, the former Las Vegas Raider, hey, once a Raider, always a Raider, right? Well, Minshew Mania was able to get his revenge and take over the reins at quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs in the third quarter. Isn't that crazy? Garbage time already in the third quarter. And what was funny is that was not the first appearance by Minshew Mania in this game. Early on, the Chiefs were just having fun, knowing they're easily going to whoop the Raiders' ass. Even in the second quarter, they had Gardner Minshew right here. You can see on the right side of the Chiefs side of the football. He was actually almost going to get a passing touchdown in this game early on. Andy Reid was just trying to rub it in and help the guy get some revenge there, but this play was called back. Flag happened, but it would have been a Gardner Minshew passing touchdown, technically number 17 there at the top of the second quarter. And honestly, I really respect Andy Reid trying to get a little bit of revenge for Minshew. I think he probably wants to pour a little bit of salt in the wound because his friend John Gruden got pushed out of the Raiders organization, and we know that John Gruden went over there and hung out with the Kansas City Chiefs during training camp last year. And this game was only 31-0. I actually want to give Andy Reid credit, bro. The dude could have run up the score even more, but he was playing nice to the Raiders, even had the Chiefs kneeling the football before the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. I don't think I've ever seen that either. So I remember the last time the Raiders got shut out, it was somehow even worse than this because it was a 3-0 L against the Minnesota Vikings. And this was at home in Allegiant Stadium. This is even worse where the game is right there. All you need is 3 freaking points to tie it, and they couldn't do it once. It's crazy to think that Andy Reid, good friend of Pete Carroll, nice guy, was willing to go easy on him. I mean, it's crazy to think that this could have been even more of a freaking ass whooping. And the Chiefs managed to have as many first downs as the Raiders had in total plays. They each had 30. This is just another thing that I did not even think was possible in the National Football League. And eventually, 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, we had a change of quarterback. Maybe Kenny Pickett can give the Raiders a spark. That's what we were all thinking. Well, early on in the game with Geno Smith, we saw Geno accidentally fumble the football when trying to receive the snap from the center Jordan Meredith. Well, looks like that wasn't a quarterback exclusive problem. The same thing happened on the very first play for the former Pittsburgh Steeler, the temporary Cleveland Brown, Kenny Pickett. His first play in this game, taking over for Geno in garbage time, was a fumble from the center, and it was absolutely hilarious because it was a turnover, Chiefs recover, and Raiders fans were praying that maybe some way, somehow, Kenny Pickett could at least just give the fans something to watch in the last 15 minutes of this game. But no, instead, it was already a complete disaster. And it's very difficult to spin this, man. I've been trying to defend Geno Smith. We've never seen him look this bad before. Yeah, they showed the stat that he leads the NFL in interceptions since taking over as a starter with the Seahawks in 2022. Pretty much since he's been a consistent starting quarterback as of late. But we've never seen him be this bad, and the bulk of those interceptions, 10 of them, have been just in these past 7 games. Well, let's look at the positives with the Raiders. Geno Smith didn't throw an interception against the Chiefs. Wow, yippee, he didn't throw an interception against the Chiefs. Well, he managed to only throw for 67 yards, 10 of 16, no touchdowns at all, and just nowhere to go with the football. I saw this throughout the game. A lot of the throws were at the line of scrimmage. Guy had not too much time to throw and just seemed like nobody was open a majority of the time. I have trouble blaming Geno Smith in his entirety because I just don't think he has many weapons to work with. Who's his best guy? Trey Tucker and the backup tight end Michael Mayer. I really don't know where he's supposed to go with the football. In the press conference, we'll show that in a little bit. It seems like he's sort of admitting saying that this year, especially given all the injuries, wasn't meant to be a year of significance for the Raiders. And things are getting so sad that a Raiders fan influencer is jumping ship to the San Francisco 49ers. We literally have Raiders fans leaving the team and instead joining the 49ers. You got this guy, East Bay Pinoy, over here jumping ship. Looks like he's going to go to Santa Clara, and he's had it. He's done with the Raiders. He's fed up, and now he's at Levi Stadium switching to the gold and red and no longer rocking silver and black. So Pete Carroll and Geno Smith are leading such a disaster that we got fans instantly jumping ship. Geno Smith doesn't seem to have any sort of explanation as to what the issue is here. Seems like he's sort of just giving up and kind of just admitting that this is not a good football team we have here, and guy doesn't really have much to work with. I give him credit, though, for apologizing to the fans.
There's got to be some issues, right? I mean, 31-0, that's embarrassing, man. We put too much into this game to come out here and just, not have a shot. And, my heart's broken for really the Raider fans. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot that goes into this. And there's a lot of things on that field that we can do better. And so, again, I'm not looking at anyone else. I'm looking at myself. We had about 15 plays in the first half, so we didn't get a chance to get into a rhythm. And then second half, we didn't do much either. So, they're a great team, historically great team. They've been, together for a while. These guys, they understand what it takes to win, and we're a developing team. And
I think that's the truth of it all. What he said right there, they're a team that's been together for a long time, and we are a developing team. That's a huge euphemism, right? That's the word you use when you basically say, hey, we're a bad team, and we're hoping that in the future, some of these players who are currently new, currently bad, can become better, and we could potentially get new players who are better than the ones that we currently have on the team. I mean, that's basically what he's saying there. That's basically what's being admitted. And honestly, I think that's kind of true. I mean, they're relying on a 4th-round pick, Dante Thornton, to be a starting wide receiver. He's clearly not ready. Jack Besh, the 2nd-round pick out of TCU, hasn't really done anything for the Raiders. And Trey Tucker has always been sort of a depth guy who's on the team, and he was expected to be the #1 wide receiver with all the injuries happening for this Raiders football team. And that's why even though Geno Smith has been playing like the worst quarterback in the NFL, and when you look at the stats, he is statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL. When I watched this game and when I watched it play it out, I really don't know what he was supposed to do. I mean, yeah, the guy could become a superhero like Josh Allen and just start running the football and lowering his shoulder and making some crazy improvised plays. But other than that, I didn't see anything open for Geno Smith. It's not like there's some wide open receivers there that he's missing. And like we said earlier, at least he didn't turn the ball over this time. But I think a big issue 100% is Chip Kelly. This guy has been so disappointing. The highest paid offensive coordinator in the entire NFL. Yeah, you don't have many good weapons because of the injuries, but you're the highest paid offensive coordinator, man. You're supposed to figure some shit out and find a way to scheme guys open, find a way to exploit some of these more talented defenses. And I think literally the Raiders should have spent their money to grab anybody else besides Chip Kelly, a guy who hasn't been coaching at the NFL level in some time and has been relegated to the college game. Clearly that was a huge mistake. And who's the guy signing up and making all the mistakes for the Las Vegas Raiders? It's none other than fucking Tom Brady. And I am just so sick of the fact that nobody puts any blame towards Tom Brady at all when he's deciding literally everything according to Mark Davis. Who's going to be the coaches? Who's going to be the players? What direction are the Raiders going in? It is the Brady show. Mark Davis has essentially said he is going to be the #1 voice making all these football decisions. Well, so far, his football decisions have been complete trash. Pete Carroll, really disappointing. Supposed to be a guy who could rally the troops and develop these players and keep the locker room together. Well, in this game, I saw a Raiders team that just really seemed like they did not care. I saw Raiders players who cared more about hugging Patrick Mahomes than they did making an impact during this football game. And it just seemed like they were giving up instantly. Antonio Pierce, to his credit, even though I think he was a severely underqualified head coach and should not have been the head coach of the Raiders, clearly he hasn't gotten another opportunity from another football team yet. I still think this guy had the team playing with more effort last year, even though I was arguably his biggest hater last year. If you check out some of my content, I was trying to be positive early in the week, and I was trying to inspire some hope for this Raiders football team and these Raiders fans by just speaking it into existence and saying, hey, these two guys are beating the Chiefs this week, book it, trying to get some motivation here on X and get people pumped up. Well, that ended up being a completely freezing cold take, and I ended up completely losing my mind and breaking down during this game and just saying, fuck the Raiders. At a certain point, I just lost it during this game. It was just made me so ashamed to be a fan, to see the lack of effort and just everything fall apart. The season is officially over, but I still had to do my trolling. And in the fourth quarter, when we were down 31-0, I had to say we can still win this game. Let's rally in the fourth quarter and see if something can happen, baby. But obviously that was never going to happen. But I do think the criticism falls on Tom Brady. I think Pete Carroll, criticism falls there along with Chip Kelly. Geno Smith was never expected to be the greatest quarterback, always expected to be an average, maybe above average guy. He's been disappointing, but I don't think he has much to work with this year. And I know everybody's just going to look at the stats, but he really hasn't had much to work with. But I will say, man, because the 2021 Raiders, how everything happened with the John Gruden email situation where he was forced to resign by the Raiders due to pressure allegedly from Roger Goodell. Well, actually, I mean, the ESPN has reported that Roger Goodell pressured the Raiders to do something when the emails were allegedly leaked by Roger Goodell in 2021 of John Gruden. It just makes you look back at all this, man, and just say, wow, these guys weren't perfect. They had some 7-win seasons. They obviously weren't contenders for the Super Bowl, but I felt like they had something going in the right direction. At least when you watch games back then in the John Gruden, Derek Carr era that we had recently, which is the only positive thing we've had that happened recently, you always felt like they had a shot. You always felt like they had a competitive offense, and they utilized guys that nobody even wanted. They didn't have the highest paid players ever, and they still were able to compete with the best of them. And honestly, had a lot of fun along the way. I really missed a lot of the press conferences, the funny interviews, the churchy Christian guy, Derek Carr, who never cusses, with the gritty, hard-ass, blowhard John Gruden, who swears like a sailor, and they somehow got along, man. It just makes you nostalgic for these guys, especially given the fact that it went out the way it did. They didn't go out where it was a disastrous season, then they lost like crazy, and then they got fired. No, they went out because the head coach got forced out of the organization, allegedly by the commissioner, Roger Goodell. And I think Raiders fans constantly look back to these guys whenever you see the struggles of their football team as of late. 3 different head coaches in 3 different years, and it's been the same shit for the Raiders, whether it's Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, or Pete Carroll. And I don't know what the Raiders can do next, man. I mean, you could say, hey, are the Raiders maybe tanking for a quarterback and Pete Carroll just needs more of his guys? I don't think that's the case. They went out and traded for Geno Smith, who is Pete Carroll's guy. He's a veteran. If it's not working out now, it's probably never going to work out. And it does seem odd that the Raiders still have so much extra salary cap that they did not end up spending in this past offseason. If you're going to have a veteran quarterback, veteran coach, you're not going to lean into a full rebuild by just starting all rookies, dealing with tanking, kind of leaning into that like they did sort of in the Antonio Pierce 2024 season. Then why not just go all in, spend the salary cap, and try to compete? I don't know what the Raiders are doing. I think the worst thing that they're doing is they're going half-ass into rebuilding and half-ass on trying to compete and win as many games this year. Luckily for the next regime, because I think Pete Carroll will be one and done with the Raiders. This is a complete disaster. I'm absolutely shocked and did not think I'd be saying this, but luckily for the next regime, I do still think there's a chance the Raiders end up with the first pick in the draft, maybe the second pick in the draft, because they've only won 2 games this year so far. And do you really anticipate them winning another one? They play the Jaguars next, who I'll say had a bad game against the Rams, but beat the Chiefs earlier in this season. Then you're playing the Broncos, who are number 1 in the AFC West. Then you're playing the Cowboys. Dak Prescott has been playing at an MVP caliber caliber level, similar to Patrick Mahomes. And then you got the Cleveland Browns with a badass defense. Dylan Gabriel, he's not looking too bad. He's kind of finding his groove after getting a big victory against the Miami Dolphins. And then you play the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, who always knows how to smack around Pete Carroll over the years. I mean, I don't want to talk trash on Pete Carroll too much, but Harbaugh's had his number over the past few years. And then you're going back to the Broncos, and then you play the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh my God, the Eagles, that's an L of course. And then you got the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud and company, playing lights out this year, and you're playing the freaking hot and swagalicious Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo, the New York Giants in Vegas. Whoa, the Raiders are not winning that game against Dart. He's playing lights out. And then you got the Chiefs again. So looking at these games, where's the win? Like, where is the win? The Raiders got a rough schedule here, dude. So when I'm looking at this schedule, I seriously think there's no way the Raiders win another game. The Browns have a really great defense. I do not believe the Raiders are going to win a single game for the rest of the year. But like I said on the bright side, at least they could possibly finally draft a franchise quarterback at pick 1, at pick 2, and hopefully this time it does not end up like Jamarcus Russell. Go ahead, Raiders. Go grab that guy from Indiana, Mendoza. You know how many Raiders fans would love to have Mendoza on the back of their jersey. Go do it, Raiders. It'll build hype, sell a ton of tickets. And fortunately, the Raiders enter a bye week. We don't got to witness this pain. But nonetheless, the following week when they play the Jaguars, I'll be back like the true masochist I am, watching my Raiders do what they do best, disappoint the fan base.